Hello guys, today we will do a poem Leda and the Swan by W.B Yeats. We will try to analyze the various aspects of the poem and we will try to understand what W.B Yeats wants to uh, convey to us through this poem. So the poem begins with the line, a sudden blow, the great wings beating still. So the opening words of the poem are an indication of some sort of violence because the swan comes in from above and knocks the girl off her feet. And this swan might be larger than the average because he is Zeus in disguise. He's the cheap god Zeus who comes in the form of a swan to seduce Leda. And he continues to flap his wings as he descends on Leda, who is staggering under his weight and trying to keep her balance. So a sudden blow, the great wings beating still. Above the staggering girl, her thighs pierced. Now the bird strokes her thighs. So it's the scene clearly conveys to us that it is a sort of rape because the chief god Zeus come in the form of a swan and it was a sudden attack on the girl and the bird strokes her thighs. The beginning of the poem takes us by surprise as Leda is surprised by this sudden attack. The next line is by the dark waves, her nape caught in his bill. So here we feel that Leda realizes that there is something which is cursing her thighs, and the swan grabs her neck with his bill. And in the line 4, you will notice that the word he is used. He holds her helpless breast upon his breast. So it clearly shows that here the swan is a male and he is chief god Zeus. So how then the next line, how can those terrified vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? So this stanza raises two sort of rhetorical questions. The first question asks how Leda could possibly have prevented the rape. Actually, she was unable to react because she was surprised, and it's a very strange kind of feeling for her. She is unable to push Zeus or the swan because that was not the normal swan. That was divine God. That was God who was disguised in the form of a swan. So it was totally impossible for Leda, who is a simple human being, to push away the divine glory of God. And here we find a vague sort of confusion. That's why it was W.B. Yeats write like this, that how can those terrified vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? So here vague could mean indecisive in this sense that she doesn't know what she wants or fear, because Leda was surprised by this attack, and her normal reaction would be that she will push away the Jews. She will try to save herself from this rape. But the thing is that she is totally confused because it is not the normal swan. It is a swan disguised. Actually, Zeus was disguised as a swan, so it was impossible for her to move away. So, and Zeus was not a simple god; he was a cheap god. And another thing is that the simple standard of God is not applied to Greek ones. In Christian elements, we found that the God is very much, we can say, innocent, peaceful, and just like lamb, as we find in Jesus Christ. But the Greek gods are different. They have multiple affairs, and the purpose is different. Here, the purpose of attacking Jews on Leda or committing rape is because of Helen. Because out of this communion, Helen will be born, and and as we all know that Helen is responsible for the Trojan War. So actually, so this rape has a purpose to create a history by giving birth to Helen. The next line is, and how can body laid in that white rush and but feel the strange heart beating where it lies? So Leda now feels the swan's heart beating against her chest. And this is a kind of mysterious feeling, and often you can say exciting. And swan's body is visible only as a white rush or fast moving feathers. And the swan's heart is very much strange. Here the word strange is used. It's strange because it is not the simple swan. It's the divine element. And another thing is that uh, there is nothing weak or passive about Leda. She just doesn't stand a chance against God. She doesn't want to react against God. She doesn't want to push away the divine glory of God. That's why she accepts this without any sort of resentment, or we can say without any type of, she doesn't take any sort of action. So that's why the situation is very much vague. And the next line is, shudder in the loins engenders there. So this line shows that that it is a moment of sexual climax where Zeus impregnant Leda with Helen. So a shudder in the loins engenders there the broken wall, the burning roof and tower. Now the broken wall, the burning roof and tower is the reference of the Trojan War. This Helen is responsible for the Trojan War and the destroy or destruction of the Troy city. So we can say that now is the time to create history. Now Leda will give birth to Helen, and Helen will create history, and she is responsible for the Trojan War and the death of Agamemnon and the destruction of the Troy city. So in the line 11, and Agamemnon dead, being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the year. So now when Greek won a victory against Troy, Agamemnon was the leader of the Greek. And after winning Helen back, when they come back, Agamemnon was murdered by his own wife Clytemnestra with her paramour. So both Clytemnestra and her lover murdered Agamemnon, and so again the lion being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the hare. So here we find that Leda was mastered or overpowered by Zeus's power, Zeus's brute or animal nature. Being a bard, the brute blood is of the year. The last phrase might also lead us to think that the whole encounter takes place while the swan is flying. So the thing is that that Leda is completely helpless because Zeus possesses some power over her. After all, he is a god; he can do anything, and Leda has no other option but to humbly accept this. And the last stanza is, did she put on his knowledge with his power before the indifferent beat could let her drop? So now the thing is that Zeus knows well that this forceful rape, or you can say sexual act, have some purpose in future. But whether Leda is able to understand the divine purpose that Jews have conceived, that this their relationship or their sexual act will create history, will be responsible for the destruction of Troy and the Prince Paris. So the thing is here that did she put on his knowledge with his power? She realizes that Zeus is powerful. She feels the power because when they were doing this intercourse, sexual intercourse, she is able to understand the divine power of God. But did she able to understand the divine knowledge, divine wisdom that Zeus carries with him? That this purpose, this sexual relationship, have some purposes. This will give birth to Helen, the most beautiful woman in the earth, and for her, the whole Trojan War will take place, and the death of Achilles and all others. So here we find that this poem contains so much mythological references, and W.B. Yeats used imagery very beautiful imagery to portray this event, and it seems picture like, you can say, it is very vivid and very beautiful description of the image, as well as it can be also studied as a feminist text, because as we go through it we find that it is nothing but just a rape, and we the modern reader can't accept such sort of actions. Now in Greek mythology the values are different. The Greek god and the Christian gods have different sort of values. The Greek gods, in Greek mythology, this sort of actions, multiple affairs, rapes, and sexual relationship with many women is not a crime, because we find that Jews have multiple affairs. But if we consider this text in the present time, it's something which we can say that it's promoting rape, because we can't support this sort of things. This sort of passiveness is really dangerous for society. The passiveness of Leda is can't be acceptable, and here so the whole text can be studied as a feminist text also, and but basically when W.B. Yeats wrote this poem, he knows well, and he very clearly points out the fact that that the Greeks have different values, and we can't judge this poem from this modern perspective of feminism and all other aspects. So the overall poem is very beautiful, and it carries a message, and very we can say definite sort of imagery is very beautiful, and mythological and allegorical references are really interesting and attractive, often fascinating. So thank you friends, thank you so much.